Welcome to the Women in Leadership Body, Mind, Soul, and Business podcast. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Heather. Together, we are working to connect women in leadership and business to build relationships, empower each other, improving the health and wellness of our community, body, mind, and soul, sharing the heart and soul of who we are and what we do.
Today's guest is a remarkable and quirky individual with a pretty awesome outlook on life. She is super fun to hang out with and is a wonderful master of real estate. For her first time with us today at the table, please welcome Ashton Fae.
Thank you so much. Wow, I feel so, I don't know, big, important all of a sudden. Thank you so much for all those nice things.
So before we get into our discussion for the day, this is your first time with us. Let the world know who you are, what you do, and we have all of your links that are going to be popping up in the comments.
Awesome. My name's Ashton Fae. I'm a real estate agent with Keller Williams Brokerage, and my business is called Ashton Fae Homes within the Real Estate Solutions Group team or umbrella. I help buyers and sellers of residential and vacant land find what they need, whether that's upsizing, downsizing, looking for vacant land that they can build on, whatever their need is, whatever their plan is, whatever their goal is, I'm here for it.
You make it happen.
So a lot of real estate agents have like that niche that is like their niche, and it sounds like land is like one of your favorite niche things.
I don't know if I'd say land is my favorite. I know a lot of real estate agents who work exclusively with residential properties. And I work with residential and land, so that makes me slightly different. Land is a lot more work and usually not as expensive, but a lot more work. So,
right.
I don't know that I'd say it's my favorite thing, but totally capable of doing it. And it's so much harder than most people think in order to purchase land. So it's super important that I'm very thorough in explaining that to my clients, so they know what they're getting into, because a house is pretty straightforward, but land is a whole nother beast.
Yes. We were actually looking at purchasing the lot of land next to us when we bought this property. My home is on 10 acres. And, but when we bought it, there was 50 acres next door also for sale. So we looked at possibly purchasing that for investment later. And there was a lot of
red tape
questions, red tape. It seemed a lot more difficult than just buying a standard home, the loans that were available, all that stuff. So we decided not to go for it. But
it's a lot more difficult than buying a standard home. Yes, absolutely.
Different, a whole different set of rules and financial equations go into it. It's kind of crazy.
So I know that we are located in, the Pacific Northwest, and I know that you're local, but we haven't shared that with people. Do you want to share the area in which, you work in?
I live in Camano Island. My office is in Marysville, and I work all over Western Washington. My license is good anywhere in Washington state, but I like to keep my driving to Western Washington, not go east.
The I-5 corridor, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Going over the passes in the winter is never fun, and in the summer it's always full of construction.
I've done some properties up in Okanagan County, which is like Whatcom County, and then east, it's like middle of nowhere. And I've gone over onto the Olympic Peninsula in order to help clients. So I do travel. It's not outside my area, but I specialize and feel most comfortable in the neighborhoods from Bellingham down to Tacoma area.
Yeah. And
Awesome.
speaking of Tacoma, what was it last week? You made a post about a home that you helped one of your clients find down in Tacoma. And I was like, I know that house. That's like 2 blocks from my mom's. That's cool.
I love how crazy small the world is sometimes. And you find those connections and you're like, oh my gosh.
Right? Exactly. It's so fun. So fun. And finding all kinds of different connections all over the Pacific Northwest, the country, and now the world has kind of been a really fun part of being part of this podcast. But what we wanted you specifically to talk to today, Ashton, is about how did I want to put it? The how people look at women who are different in the workplace.
Yeah.
Because
we touched on it a little bit before recording, but I mean, I'm a real estate agent, but I'm not the quintessential, like when somebody says real estate agent, you have a picture in your head of this like lady in a power suit with like perfect hair and an expensive car, and I'm not that person. If you're listening to this and not watching it, I have pink and blue and purple hair right now. I'm wearing long sleeves, but I'm covered in tattoos. And I am also part of the queer community. So in a lot of ways, I'm very non-traditional.
That's the word I was looking for. Non-traditional women in the workplace.
Yeah.
Because it was like we were told that here's the corporate mold, this masculine idea of what professional is, right? The power suit, right? Men also wear power suits. Versus being yourself and still thriving as a woman in business.
Yeah. I'm sorry, is that getting super loud out there?
It is.
Okay.
And that is what happens when you work in an office with other women. It gets loud and crazy and things happen. Obviously, women are celebrating Women in Business Day today.
Right?
Like,
ooh, yes, it is national.
Okay, I'm sorry. I told them they need to shut up.
Like we were saying, we all have kids and pets and work in offices, and it is just the life of women in business to wear many hats and multitask and
oh my gosh, yeah,
all the things.
Yeah.
So with being I'm not going to fit in the box kind of person, or I don't fit in the box kind of person in business, how has that affected you specifically, both good and bad?
I mean, on the good side, it allows like a personality, an immediate connection. Most of my clients and people that I work with, they are not the power suit wearing type of people. They are normal people who look like all of us right now. And so it makes them feel more comfortable to know that they're the person that's on their side, the person that's helping them is somebody just like them. So on the positive side, it makes me much more relatable. That's the word, right?
Relatable, approachable.
Yeah.
Well, because you're being authentic, right? So you're showing up authentically.
Yeah. And I mean, the brightly colored hair is always a conversation starter. Right?
Always.
That's the positive side. There aren't negative sides. I mean, people think that I don't look professional. I've been called not unprofessional several times. They don't think that I deserve the same level of respect, or they don't talk to me in the same way that they would the agent next to me that is wearing the power suit, right? They talk to her more formally and with more respect. And to me, they feel like they can talk to me in a different way. So it does have negatives. I don't want to say that I like try to hide how non-traditional I am, but I do say that I minimize how controversial I appear upon first impressions, because I know that first impressions are super important. And whether we admit it or not, we are all human and we all have biases. And, you know, we look at somebody and we automatically start to make some assumptions about them. Good, bad, whatever, we make assumptions. And first impressions are so very important. So I will say that, like, for my first time meeting somebody, I can't change my hair. Like, that is what it is. And it's on my business card, so they already are aware of that. Right. But I do wear long sleeves to cover up the fact that I'm fully tattooed. I do, I don't talk about my family relationships because I don't want them to come in with any preconceived ideas about what that makes me or what level of skill I have. I want to be judged on how I do in the interview, how I answer their questions, how I'm able to help them. I don't want to be judged on what they think of people with tattoos. I don't want to be judged on what they think of people that are in the queer community.
Right, being judged by actual merit versus perceived merit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. And I have watched Ashton work her butt off for her clients. And I know she is well versed in all the things that she does. She does these really cool, like, informational TikTok videos and stuff all the time. They're super fun.
Yep, absolutely.
I just got started in TikTok, and I hear people talking about it all the time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Oh, another platform. It's so fun.
It is so fun.
You gotta come have fun with us all on TikTok if you're not open there.
Right?
Right. You really gotta come have some fun. Like, it's super great. We use, like, I think we use some of the, like, TikToks kind of as ways to continue to communicate with each other. Like, we'll do a TikTok and then like the emotion of the TikTok will come up and we'll be like, I'm overwhelmed. Like, it just comes up like, okay, now I got to reenact our own TikTok. Like, it cracks me up.
It's funny. We have a lot of fun. And I think that is part of the passion and the joy that we are able to bring to our own businesses, that, you know, we get to call the shots, and we get to be silly, be goofy, be authentic to who we are in the process. So we're going to get into our discussion topic of the day, but first we have our meditation, you guys. Today we are on day 34 of Meditations from the Mat by Rolf Gates and Katrina Kinsey.
Both feet on the floor or cross-legged, one or the other. If you're driving, do not close your eyes. Do not cross-leg your legs. You need them to drive. Unless you have really awesome, like, thumb controls or something, you know, because you have a special hand.
No, you cannot drive with your knees. You cannot drive with your thumbs. Don't do it.
And keep your eyes open, please.
Keep your eyes open. Take a couple deep breaths. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Our vision is beclouded and the pathway of our progress is obstructed until we come to know that God can and does express as good in every person and every situation. By Ernest Holmes. Students approach me after class with two sorts of problems. Some have nagging physical difficulties or have injured themselves while exercising or playing sports. Others have emotional injuries. They may be going through a divorce, be out of work or stuck in their careers, or suffer from anxiety or depression, or they may just have difficult lives and feel sad. Having experienced most of these troubles myself and professing no expertise in anything, and all I can offer is compassion. As I explain how I meet my own hardships, over time I have been struck by the fact that as I get progressively more honest, what I have to say becomes progressively more simple. A physical problem that affects us on the mat is an opportunity to pay closer attention to what we do and to put our faith in our ability to heal. A life problem off the mat, whether it has to do with the IRS or childhood abuse, is an opportunity to pay closer attention to what we do and to put our faith in our ability to heal. There was a time when I used the word mindfulness, suggesting that these situations were opportunities to develop mindfulness. But I've since felt that the need to break that word down. A person in pain often needs things to be broken down. Mindfulness is the art of paying attention. But there is more to it than that. It is paying attention with an abiding faith in a loving universe. We are not meant to be on the edge of our seats, anxiously paying attention so that we can control our outcomes and events. We are meant to stand firmly in the postures of our lives, bearing witness to the moment, to our experience of the moment, aware as we do so that, in the words of Charles Johnson, we are encompassed and supported by spiritual powers. When we pay attention with faith that we will be supported, then growth really is possible. Our vision becomes clear. Our path becomes unobstructed, and we are able to see the good in every person and situation. Heather and I were actually just talking about this part here. Having experienced most of those troubles myself and professing no expertise in anything, all I can offer is compassion, and where compassion comes from. And so compassion comes from going through the hard stuff.
Right.
It comes from experiencing I don't want to say
adverse
situations.
It's something that's would be challenging to somebody.
Being able to have empathy is like a big part of compassion, knowing even if you haven't gone through the exact same thing, being able to understand how it would feel. Right?
Absolutely.
And that is exactly what we're talking about this week.
Avidya, lack of awareness.
Tried.
How
Get
much
closer.
are we actually aware of, and how much is just perceived awareness? Because the driving down the road, right? Driving down the road, you hit autopilot, and all of a sudden you're like,
What the heck am I?
I've driven 3 miles and I, oops, I hope that wasn't a red light I just went through. So being aware is like, you should be paying attention to the road and traffic and everything else going on, but your brain is off in la la land somewhere else thinking about 5 million other things.
Do you think that your hyper awareness of being in the community that you're in is almost hindering, like, because you're so aware that you're like don't want other people's reactions, so you're like, does it make you hyper vigilant, like almost the opposite of what we're talking about?
I don't think so. I think that I am super lucky that I live in a very open and progressive area. So it
Right.
hasn't made me super hyper aware of it or afraid or anything like that. It's just part of my nature to always want harmony and avoid conflict. So I try and treat it kind of like politics or religion.
Oh,
You
okay.
we don't talk about it in mixed company because that's something that just brings about the worst in people. Everybody has an opinion on it. And so until I know that I'm super comfortable with you and that I am not concerned that we're going to have an argument about what political party I am versus your political party, I'm not going to bring it up.
Right.
And it's the
Right.
same way. So I don't think I'm super hyper aware of it, but it's just something that I try, well, I don't know. Saying that I try to be careful about it makes it sound like I'm kind of hyper aware of it too. I don't know.
Well, I think it's also knowing good boundaries, right? Like knowing what your boundaries are, and like I'm gonna stand up for myself and not let somebody be a butthead to me, right? So we're not gonna like purposely, flip those switches and see if that person's a butthead or not, right?
Well,
we're gonna let them like show their colors in time, and we'll see.
Yeah, it just meeting a new client in business is a lot like meeting a new friend, right? You're not going to tell them all your secrets right off the bat.
Right.
Absolutely. That's such a good analogy.
Right?
Such a good analogy.
That's what people do to me, though. That's like my superpower. Like you sit down and talk to me, and you're like, why did I just say that to you?
Yeah, and then other things are just nobody else's business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
I mean, it's professional to remain professional and not blend your personal life into it.
Right.
And so I don't think that people need to know about my personal life.
Right.
If I choose for them to know about it, awesome. But it's professional to stay professional.
Right. And I think it's a really, well, it's not really a great thing. What?
Oh, train. I don't know if you guys can hear this. We've had like 3 go by in the last 10 minutes.
No, actually, I can't really tell. Actually, the train.
Oh,
the train is fine. It was the talking that was loud. That's funny.
Our lack of awareness. Your awareness.
Right, there we go. Like, right. I used to live in Marysville, like, and on 9th Street. So, like, the Marysville train, like, that's a big deal to me. Like, I totally know it. Like, and then I moved to the other side of the tracks, and it was like so weird. Like, I'd be like, the train's coming from the wrong direction. What is happening? Like the sound.
You got turned around in your head.
Yeah, it was just like really weird. It was weird to like, because in Marysville, like the train tracks are like right downtown. Like all the businesses are like right there. There's no way around it. Like train happens.
I've always lived up against the train before Marysville. I lived in downtown Snohomish. And there's a train that goes through there. Now I live out on Camino and we don't have trains, but we do have jets. So
trading
you never get away from the noise.
Well, while we're talking about lack of awareness this week, I'm going to be talking this week about different ways we can be more aware about eating and about our health. So today I'm going to talk about awareness around whole food. So whole food is food that has been processed or refined as little as possible. So it's free from additives or other artificial substances. In case somebody is, like it's an apple, not like let's see what I was applesauce. Thank you. I was like all of a sudden I'm like, what do you make out of apples? It's not like that processed canned apple pie filling.
Right.
There we go. That's really processed versus a whole apple. Okay. So in general, whole foods are going to be healthier for you than processed ones. I feel like this should be common sense, but let's talk about it. Like maybe someone, you got to go back to the basics sometimes.
I always learn something new.
Right. So one of the reasons why so here are some 4 ways that whole foods are healthier than processed foods. Whole foods contain more nutrients and nutrition. Whole foods contain more protein to satisfy you longer. Whole foods have fewer additives, which is health promoting, and whole foods are more sustainable, so they're better for the planet. So I was like, wow. I always forget that because whole foods, when you're like the satisfying you longer, like it's because your body is processing all the different parts of the plant or the actual food, right? As opposed to it being broken down into little bits and your body's just like pushing it through.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It holds on to the fibers and the proteins, which is what keeps you full longer rather than carbs and sugars. And the highly processed foods, they're mostly carbs and sugars, which your body's anatomy breaks it down very quickly.
And then it pushes it through
immediately.
Exactly. So ways to incorporate whole foods into your diet. So first one is bake with fruit. So when you're
swapping things for fruit instead of sugar. So one of my favorite ways I make oatmeal is I will chunk up apples and put apples in there as opposed to a whole bunch of brown sugar and
Bananas.
stuff like that. Bananas.
I love bananas are like one of the sweetest fruits that you can get. So I love putting bananas in my oatmeal.
Oh, yes.
They talk about swapping out like apples for the sugar. So you can use applesauce in place of your sugar, maybe in a recipe, and try it out in your baking.
Try to use homemade applesauce if you can, because it's got a lot less preservatives and things.
Right. Which is, and it's super fun to make. And if you get the cool round like funnel thing that you can like squish the peels with that
apple peeler quarter slicer.
There's that too. That's cool. Like, and then they're like, if you don't like take all your pieces and parts out, you can like, there's this like mesh thing you can put that makes the apple into sauce. I don't know. My grandma had it. It was really, really cool. It was really fun. And then you have all your peels and all the nasty bits in one spot. And it was really cool.
But then you put all those nasty bits in a pot, add a little bit of add water to it, and you simmer it, and that's how you make apple cider. I was
gonna say, isn't the peels like how you make the apple juice and apple cider is from the peel itself?
So fun.
Like now we just learned how to make that, right?
We just talked about it. It's not even on our notes. Okay.
So try to choose whole grains over refined grains because when they refine a grain, it strips away nutrients like the fibers, the things that your body needs. And it takes away vitamins from it. So some ways to eat more whole grains is to switch to a whole grain bread. So read your labels. So learning about that. So like you can bring awareness to these things. Like I taught my son to read labels and now we read every label in the grocery store. Good for our health, bad for nerves, right? Swap half your white flour with whole wheat flour and give that a try in your baking recipes. Cook steel cut oats instead of the processed dry cereals for breakfast. Try wild rice or quinoa, and quinoa. I was gonna say I probably am saying it wrong. Instead of like white rice for dinner because it's gonna have more nutrients for your body.
These are all actually really good tips because food is getting more expensive.
Right.
And so by going to whole foods, which are less processed, a lot of times you can find them a little bit cheaper than the processed ones. you kind of have to look for them, but you can also grow them in your yard or pots or whatever kind of plant garden you might have.
The big thing is that it'll keep you full longer, so you run less risk of snacking in between meals, which is, I don't know, like 80% of my food budget, having 3 teenagers.
Right. Yeah, like I swear tortilla chips in bulk, right?
Yeah.
Like what is with nachos and teenagers. Like, okay, so the next tip was plant a snack on me. So I thought that was cute. Plant a snack. Okay, anyway, it's time for planting season. Getting a little excited. So from nuts and seeds and fruit, popcorn, different ways to get whole grains and instead of processed foods. So it's great to think about what you're snacking on. Think simple. Whole foods are simple and require only a little preparation. So like just rinsing the carrots off, you've rinsed the apple off, it's ready to eat. Thinking like that.
And it's so good. And the flavor and the nutrition that you get from unprocessed foods versus processed foods is so different.
It is. And I think that sometimes there's a learning process for your palate.
It is.
And so being aware that, I have to get used to not having my taste buds overwhelmed by particular nutrients, that are chemically made to make me want more of that food, right? So thinking of that. Switch to fresh teas. Teas actually go through a lot of processing. So if you're using a fresh tea, it's been processed way less, has way more good things in for it, because we're usually drinking tea because we're trying to have a good choice for us. So looking for an organic source, a more fresh source is always fun. We got these cute, these really cute little tea guys.
A little Loch Ness monster.
They're little Loch Ness monsters.
Tea diffusers.
They are just adorable. I love them so much.
They're so
they make it
cute.
fun. So make it fun for yourself. It doesn't have to be stiff and boring.
Right?
So the quote of the week is, "In darkness, unawakened, they make foolishness cover their wisdom and overflow. One remembrance of illumination can break through and a leap out of the dust."
Zen Master Hongzhi.
Just takes focusing on one little piece to make a change in your life.
Yeah. That's it.
One little speck.
One little speck. Upcoming events. We have podcasts, more podcasts, you guys. Wednesdays and Fridays at 9 a.m. Mondays, Mindset Monday at 11:30 lunchtime for us, Pacific
Northwestern
time zone people. And then also our Tuesday evening, 4 p.m., which is what you're watching now. So thanks for hanging out with us. And Ashton, thank you so much for joining us. Happy National Women's Day. It's always a pleasure, and we're definitely looking forward to having you back again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a blast.
If you since you've enjoyed today's episode and you're still here with us, go to our website, Women in Leadership, BSMB.com, and be sure to subscribe and like us.
Yeah.
We are so close to hitting our 1,000 downloads. So go ahead and listen wherever podcasts are and download our podcast. It's getting super exciting watching the growth. So it was very exciting.
Our cause of the quarter this quarter is now networking. Now networking helps women leaders overcome adversity, mentoring them and supporting them through high school and college. And they have a gala on March 31st. So get your tickets, come join us. It's sure to be
come
a blast.
have a party with us, because Rianne Hall is throwing it and you don't want to miss it. Local peoples, come on, you want to come have fun with us.
Rianne knows how to throw a party. And so we're really looking forward to that. And we are also looking forward to connect and continue to build more relationships with more community leaders.
And that's you. You are a woman in leadership, and we're looking forward to you joining our table. Namaste.
Namaste.